Good morning, good evening to everyone. This is the second day for the presentation day by the interns of the project called Young Dialogue. This project has been started in the early of September 2020. And Shumedha is a wonderful intern in this particular project, very much enthusiastic, positive attitude towards the academic life and career. She is a research assistant at CSSSC currently, community mobilizer and an adherent believer in the field of human rights. She is also practicing Buddhism from her core of heart. Also, she is very much into the field of feminism, and her social work is an extended value towards the academic and research activities. This particular project leads by the young population, particularly in India, and today's topic is very much relevant and very much with the opted for the current day activities related with the spaces that we are using in social media with the hate speech and its impact in daily life. The naturalist positive and with a positivist debate in Indian society. So the floor is yours, Shumedha. I welcome you for this particular session and thank you so much for your on-time presentation. Best of luck.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shruti Chakraborty. It's an honor presenting for you and the whole team. I'll be talking on the topic hate speech and its impact in daily life. And the topic that I have prepared today, it is based on the naturalist and positivist debate in Indian society. So, as I belong from India and I have been growing up in India, I am my knowledge is still limited to India as far as my growing up is concerned. So, as I'm a student of human rights, naturalist and positivist debate has always made up the basis of human rights. So, I'll start with the basic. What is hate speech? So, hate speech is any discriminatory word or statement hurled at an individual or group to create a sense of prejudice. It is that dismissive, insulting, and disrespectful treatment caused to an individual or group to make them suffer, mostly on mental level. So, this is my understanding, and I have drawn this conclusion that hate speech is a discriminatory word or an action which is hurled at the individuals or any group to create a sense of prejudice. The fact that I am better than another individual makes one spell out hate speeches or hate crimes towards another. My next slide says the root causes of hate speech. From what my research have allowed me to draw conclusion, the root causes are stereotypes that we have seen in our Indian society always since forever. And stereotypes are like stubbornness to a particular ideology. It can be any ideology that human force tries to or human force likes to believe in, but there is a stubbornness toward that ideology, that my ideology is the best ideology and others ideology are not as good as mine. Then the second point is discrimination, the feeling of superiority over another individual or group. What I mentioned in the first point, it is the feeling of superiority, that my ideology or my thoughts are the best, they are the superior, and what others are telling me or what others are trying to discuss with me or are not as good as mine. Then the third and the most important point, which is very relevant nowadays, is misinformation. Since we live in a era of social media, misinformation spreads like fume. It spreads like fire. So spreading of false news casually leads to lot of hate crimes and hate speeches. I have drawn a I have drawn a data from internet where hate speech targeting Indian caste, religious, gender, and queer minorities is rampant across Facebook. So here the social media statistics is given, where you can see that false news creates 16% of the whole graph. 13% is on casteism, 13% on gender, sexuality, hate speech. Our women and the minorities, queer minorities, faces rampant hate speech problems daily on Facebook and other social media sites, uh, Instagram, Twitter, etc. 11% of violence, 9% is anti-religious minorities, and 37% is Islamophobia. So this is a very common problem here in India, that most of our majorly people are Islamophobic. Now, my third slide says, how is hate speech experienced or spread? It may come to an individual in daily life in the larger form of genocide or bias motivated acts of violence, and it may also affect an individual equally by casual discrimination, intolerance, regular sexist statements, and other types like xenophobia. So what is xenophobia? Like, it is the dislike for another's country, what we face during India Pakistan cricket match. So when India Pakistan is playing, it itself is a violent moment in our drawing room. So while India and Australia is playing, or while India and England is playing, we don't face such violent commentary in our drawing room from our family members or relatives, whoever we are watching the match with. So this is a very common practice, that when India Pakistan is playing, we always keep on saying uh, things, keep on saying delivering statements that makes look like Pakistan is like Pakistan should be killed, Pakistan should be bombed right away while they are playing a cricket match. So that kind of thoughts, or that kind of emotions, is called xenophobia. Racism, as we all know, that we practice it in daily life. How? I will just give an example which I have mentioned here. So let's say someone woke up from the morning in the morning, and his or her parents or their parents suddenly says, go freshen up, you look like a negro. So negro, or the word chinky, so we tell that someone who has probably got a new haircut with fringes in the front, we tell them very casually that you look like chinky. So these are racism. Then there is anti-religion hatred, which I have mentioned in my last slide, as it is Muslims are the reason behind increased population. These are very casual statements that goes around in the tea stalls in every uh, like in every states of our country, that Muslims are the reason behind increased population. This sort of conversation we have all grown up hearing. Then there are, obviously, in every family there is anti-women words or actions that goes around uh, rampantly. Like, when we, as a woman, we know that uh, how we face anti-women words or actions in our country, and it is not possible for the men to even slightly understand the pain that comes with such words or actions. Like, it comes very uh, casually. I haven't mentioned any particular example here, because there are so many. Like, you stand in front of a mirror, looking at yourself, probably your family member comes and tell you something very to make you look like they say you things that are disregarding, disrespecting, and you immediately lose confidence on yourself. So this goes around, and especially when a man and a woman fights, the kind of words that a man speak out towards his or their woman, it's nasty. That's all I can say. So these are all hate speeches, and we do not even recognize that this goes around in our daily life. Then there is anti-LGBTQA statements that goes around. So supposedly you dress up a little much than what you usually do, then you are called a term. Like I wouldn't like to mention it here, and I wouldn't like to disrespect any of my LGBTQA uh, class friends who might be watching this video sometime later. But we know that what are the types of terms that are used on them. It is uh, disheartening and it is disregarding to use such terms, but we hardly recognize that we are practicing hate speech in our daily life. So here is a pyramid that I have again drawn from internet, the source is Google. So here you see the genocide, the act of intent to deliberately and systematically annihilate an entire group. So the kind of genocide that occurs, that the kind of genocide that is occurring now in Iran and other places, other South, like Central Asian countries, we get to hear about them in regular or daily news. But we are so casual with it already. Like we don't care to protest. We don't care to resist. Obviously, this will grow. Bias motivated violence, again, murder, rape, assault that goes around towards the women or men generally, or the LGBTQ community as well. But this violence grows because we do not understand from the uh, that the root is, it starts from ourselves, it starts from the way we talk, it starts from the home itself. Like we say that charity begins in home, so even hate speech begins in home. We start talking bad toward our family members, then we go, this goes to our friends, then the circle increases, and finally we can uh, like there is no difference between us committing a murder and us saying a bad sentence toward any of our family member. So it is all the same, I believe. Then there comes discrimination, where you can see economic discrimination, political discrimination, which is very relevant in our country, in India, because we have this caste, class, creed difference, and it is a secular country. It is a secular country as per our constitutional uh, norms. However, the kind of treatment that we are facing, or the kind of treatment we see our uh, proletariat class faces in their day-to-day life, because of the economic discrimination or the political discrimination, or the understanding that they do not have, the political understanding they are supposed to have but probably they do not have, or probably they cannot put their head into it because uh, they are more interested to earn their daily living. So there is educational discrimination, which is growing more and more as the corporate sector have been coming and increasing their uh, like their influence in our country. Hardly people are like that, the literacy rate has gone down if we see the statistics. Then obviously there is employment discrimination. Literate people are not getting employment in our country, and that is creating huge reasons, that is giving huge reasons to like mm, spread out hate speeches. Then there are other differences like criminal justice disparities, etc. Then there is acts of bias, which is bullying, ridicule, name calling. So name calling also falls under hate speech. You see, you call someone a friend of yours who might not be as smart as you, or you feel in your head that the other person is indifferent from you, and you call them names, weird names that might end up making that person inconfident in life, that might end up like making that uh, human being, that individual, think positive about themselves. So this acts of biasness also falls under hate speeches. Biased attitudes, stereotyping, insensitive remarks, fear of difference, non-inclusive language, microaggressions, justifying biases by speaking out, like-minded people accepting negative or misinformation, screaming out positive information. This all falls under the hate speech concept, and this pyramid gives us a vivid view how it is affecting us. Then comes the naturalist positivist debate. So first of all, I would like to say what is naturalism and positivism. These two are the concept of human rights. So we, the student of human rights, are often like we are required to study about naturalism and positivism as a base matter of our syllabus. So naturalism is basically the natural process or the natural law uh, views human rights as, so natural law that views human rights as natural and outside the control of any authority. This is naturalism. And the naturalists believe that these inherent universal laws represent the morals of a society. So there are certain morals that exist. For example, I'm walking with somebody and I'm in an conversation with that person. I'm interacting with that person. I cannot suddenly go ahead and slap that person. That is against my natural or natural law. That is against my morality. So this sort of acts are naturally built in our society, and naturalists believe that any action that is morally wrong would be contradictory to the philosophy of naturalism. So if I hit this person, it is morally wrong. The person have done nothing to me to get beaten up right at that moment. But you see, this is morally wrong. And there are thousands of examples that you can, if you think for 1 minute, you can place thousands of examples that where we go morally wrong, but we keep doing that. The bigger term is corruption. We practice corruption day in and day out in different fields, which is morally wrong. And the naturalist speaks against this process. Now, positivists, who are the positivists? The positivism, I'll talk about the positivism as a philosophy. Positivism is a law that is made by human beings. So, this is the law that the human beings have made for themselves to follow. Positivism is characterized as the law enacted or adopted by proper authority for the government of an organized society. So, the law that we are given by the government to follow, and we are given this because we couldn't stick to the morality of our of the inherent moral characteristics that we were given from birth. There comes the positivists, where they have decided or made few rules and regulations for the society to walk in the organized path, so that no one uh, commits crimes unnecessarily, and if they commit crimes, they have to fall prey to the legal rules that are made by that are given in the legal system of India. So here I have mentioned that according to the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, human rights mean rights relating to life, liberty, equality, and in bold and underlined, dignity of the individuals guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by courts in India. So you see, we hardly respect others' dignity. When we talk about any topic, we think about ourselves, that how we can place ourselves, how we will earn something out of this. We hardly think about others' dignity. We, like I said, that when I was talking about the LGBTQ IA plus community, I could tell the word that we usually use on them, but my understanding of human rights, my understanding of hate speech stops me, because I want to put them in a dignified place. I do not want to bring the same word uh, in this in today's presentation, and like generalize the whole concept right away. So the dignity of the individuals are guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by courts in India. Like, just imagine that we all are born as humans, but we are having to be controlled by a court, so that we can uh, give the same amount of dignity that we expect that people will give us. Only by the enforced law by courts in India, we give dignity to others. Otherwise, we tend to insult people or insult others in the society. Now, human rights comprises of morality within its framework. This morality arises out of the concepts of ethics as well as duties that all humans possess with respect to themselves as well as others. Thus, human rights are often considered as a combination of legal as well as moral rights. Next slide talks about the constitutional provisions in India to combat hate speech. We do not have the word hate speech mentioned in anywhere in our Indian constitution. So, what I have written, I'll read it for you all. Indian constitution has no mention of the term hate speech in it. Hate speech has not been specifically defined in any law in India. In fact, it is more often misinterpreted as free speech. The freedom of speech and expression under Article 19, whole 1, whole A, includes the right to express one's views and opinions on any issue through any medium, that is by word of mouth, writing, printing, picture, film, movie, etc. However, freedom of speech is not absolute. I repeat, freedom of speech is not absolute. It has certain restrictions under the following IPC, Indian Penal Code. Section 153A and 153B of the Indian Penal Code punishes acts that cause enmity and hatred between two groups. Section 295A of the Indian Penal Code deals with punishing acts which deliberately or with malicious intention outrage the religious feelings of a class of person. Section 505 whole 1 and 505 whole 2 make the publication and circulation of content which may cause ill will or hatred between different groups or an offense. But even with these sections, hate speech, you see there in the graph, if I can, if this is clear to you all, in the graph it is shown that this is a NCRB data that cases under 505 rise exponentially. This is on 2017. Next, the cursor is on 2018, 2019, and 2020. It is at the highest. Cases filed under section 153A from 2014 to 20, again a data by NCRB, National Crime Research Bureau, sorry. So this is 2014 data, 2015, 16, 17, 18. You see how it is increasing. Only in 2019 it was lowering, but again in 2020 it has risen exponentially. So though we have these sections, it is hardly respected by the Indian people, and that is why the crime is rising exponentially. Also, we do not even take care of the daily hate speech practices that goes around in our family and in our nearest society and nearest community. But we always talk about what happens in the greater aspect, like a Hindu-Muslim fight probably broke out somewhere, like the Delhi riot that broke out few years back. So we think about them, but we do not talk about our own family life and where we go wrong. We hardly give it a thought. So my next slide talks about the law. As there is not enough specified laws dedicated to protect a civilian from being affected by hate speech, civil society deals with this matter very casually. There is hardly any understanding of what may cause another individual feel disrespected, and in the process, that individual may end up falling prey to various psychological issues, which may in return lead the individual to opt for practicing, criminal activities to deal with the past trauma. So the psychological issues, the mental health, you see nowadays the mental health problems are being like they are being rewarded now, they are being talked about and it is again rising exponentially. Hate speech can be one major cause behind rise of psychological issues because it creates trauma in an individual, and this trauma can end up like making that individual perform any sort of crime. You cannot then like restrict the amount of crime that an individual can perform because of the past trauma that he she they might have suffered due to as casual things as hate speeches. This is where the naturalists and points humans are gifted with the consciousness. We are gifted with consciousness by default. The human mind is supported by moral force. They have the sense of goodness and justice. The acts they perform with goodness and justice is classified under the moral rights of humans. These rights are not assisted by the force of law. Sense of goodness and public opinion are the sanctions behind moral rights. Here I have collected a paper cutting where the what the law says, law on hate crimes, hate speech says. So the cutting says hate speech pertains to promotion of enmity between different groups on grounds of religion, race, birthplace, residence, language, and acts prejudicial to maintenance of harmony. It falls under IPC sections 153A, 153B, 295A, 298A, and 505 whole 1 and 2, as mentioned in my last slide. Hate speech poses complex challenges to freedom of speech and expression. So Article 19 is a gifted article to us. We understand our freedom of speech, but free speech and hate speech are very different. We are more often confused with free speech, which might be a hate speech, which might be a hate speech. New provisions in IPC must be incorporated. So there is not enough law, which is why you see even in the paper cutting there is a saying that new provisions in IPC must be incorporated so that we can limit ourselves or restrict ourselves from committing this immoral crime of speaking out hate speech or doing a hate crime towards another and falling like making that person or that group fall prey to some trauma which might lead up to the psychological issues. Now here since I have given in my last slide, since I have given point to the naturalist, here the concept of cause and effect comes, as Dr. Swati Chakraborty have mentioned uh, uh, initially, that I practice Buddhism, and the Buddhism is nothing but it is based on the concept of cause and effect. I have tried to put my understanding here. So we believe as you sow, so shall you reap. Whatever you do, when a child is born, the way you a child is not born with uh, like understanding of a country, understanding of politics, understanding of economics, understanding of social affairs, but you make that child grow up into an individual who can be a proper civilian in and can make his or her or their country proud. So whatever as whatever seed you plant and however way you take care of that seed is the uh, effect you see as a tree. So the law of cause and effect is an universal law which specifically states that every single action in the universe produces a reaction no matter what. Every single effect within our world upon our earth has a cause, an original starting point. So when you deliver hate speech toward any individual or group, you are creating a cause for that person or group to insult, disregard, dislike you for your words or action. You are the one who have created that cause. So whatever effect comes, you have to accept it. You are telling somebody, hey, you are a mad person. I don't like you. Obviously, that person will not like you back because you call that person mad. So you have created that effect for yourself. You have caused that effect for yourself. Again, I would like to mention that I wouldn't want to believe or I wouldn't want to bring in any religion in my presentation. The concept of cause and effect is universal. obviously the philosophy of Buddhism is based in it. I think more religion follows the laws of cause and effect, but it is an universal philosophy more than any other thing. My next slide talks about hate speech necessarily does not occur exclusively in flashpoint moments of violence. It is also like a poisonous mist that kills people slowly. See, from my first slide onwards, I'm trying to tell one thing, I'm trying to make one thing clear, that hate speech is not only what you talk about or what you read in your daily morning newspaper, or what the news media houses shows you that hate speech is occurring in this country or hate speech is occurring in that country. It is like a poisonous mist that kills people slowly. So probably you have grown up in a family where hate speech has been existing since forever, and you have been part of it, and we don't even understand, we don't even counter. I'll give an example. I have written here, let's assume, but these are two cases I have seen this occur in my environment. So this is, let's assume for a few seconds that you are a working mother. So I would want you all to focus and like assume for what I'm talking, what I'm going to say next, because I want you to feel what is going around. So you are a working mother and your job is very stressful and your duty hours are long. You're tired and you want a day off. You ask your senior to give you a day off, but the senior shouts at you. It makes you more stressed, and as you get back home and your daughter opens the door and you tell her that she is the reason for all the unfortunate occurrences in your life. Your day went all wrong because you saw her face early in the morning while leaving for office. And probably this is, you try to say that you did not get a day off from your senior because you saw your daughter's face early in the morning. So do you recognize what harm you did to your daughter? You might not reply back, she might not, your daughter might not reply back immediately, but in the long run she might not even have the desire to go for any happy events in the family given her trauma, because you told her that her face, you saw her face and her face made you like lose a day off. So she will consider herself unfortunate and she'll not go for any family gatherings, and then you call her psychopath.
সুমেধা, আমরা আরেকবার লিংকে জয়েন করব। এইটা 1 মিনিটে শেষ হয়ে যাবে। আমি এইটা
Okay.
কাট করছি, আরেকবার সেম লিংকে তুমি জয়েন করে যাবে, ঠিক আছে?
Okay.
ওকে, তারপর আমরা কন্টিনিউ করব।
Okay.
ওকে ওকে সুমেধা।